In this lesson, you're going to learn about the difference between factors and multiples. We're going to start with factors. So our phrase for this is factors fit inside. So factors fit inside, and factors are your math facts. And so I'm going to start with my example of 12. So looking at the math facts for 12, I'm going to ask myself, what are numbers that evenly fit inside of 12? So I'm going to start with my math fact of 1, and I know that I can do 1 times 12. And then I'm going to check 2. 2 can evenly fit inside of 12 because I know I can do 2 times 6. That equals 12. I can also use 3. 3 times 4 equals 12. Now, if you look at this, the next number I would check would be my math fact for 4, and that would be 4 times 3. So we call this the turnaround point because 4 is right here, and if I were to check for 5, 5 does not evenly go into 12, and the next number would be 6, which is already up here. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, all won't evenly fit inside of 12, and then the last number that will fit inside of 12 is itself. So, my factors for 12, the numbers that evenly fit inside of 12, are 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. Alright, let's try 32. So, once again, I'm going to ask myself, what numbers fit evenly inside of 32? I'm going to start with my math fact for 1, and I know that 1 times 32 equals 32. And I'm going to check 2. It's an even number, so I know that I can do 2 times 16, and that will equal 32. This number cannot evenly be divided by 3, but 4 times 8 will also equal 32. Now I would check for the number 5. There's nothing that I can multiply 5 by that would equal 32. 6 and 7 also won't work. So once again, I have reached my turnaround point because 8 can evenly fit inside of 32 with 8 times 4, which is already up there. And then 9 through 15 will not work. 16 is here. And the last number that fits inside of 32 is itself. So my factors for 32 are 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, and 32. Now let's try 75. So starting with 1 times 75 equals 75. Because 75 is not an even number, I know that 2 will not work. I know that 3/4 equals 75 cents. So 3 times 25 will work. 4 is not going to evenly divide 75. I know that this number ends in a 5, so I can do 5 times 15. And I have reached my turnaround point. So my factors for 75 are 1, 3, 5, 15, 25, and 75. So something I want you to notice is that each factor for every number is always going to have 1 and that number as the beginning and end point. And you can use your divisibility rules to help you find out all of the factors that fit inside of numbers. So now that you know that factors fit inside, we're going to talk about multiples. And our phrase for this is multiples make more. So factors were my math facts, and multiples are where I'm going to use multiplication. So I'm going to make myself a little multiplication table right here, a little chart. And I'm going to put a multiplication sign here and just number off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And know that I could just keep going. So I'm going to start with 2 times 1, which is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times 6 is 12. And I could keep going. So multiples would be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, and so on. Multiples go on forever. So I could keep multiplying 2 by a larger number and keep getting a multiple of 2. But let's go back to what the factors of 2 would be. So if I wanted to talk about the factors of 2, I would ask myself what fits inside of 2. And I would start with 1 times 2. And that's actually my turnaround point because the next number to check would be 2. And that's the largest number that will fit inside of it. So notice that 2 is a factor and a multiple of itself. But also notice that factors are limited. I only have 1 and 2 as factors, but multiples will go on forever and ever. Now let's find the multiples of 5. Once again, I'm going to make myself a little chart, and let's go to 7 this time. So I'm going to start with 5 times 1, which is 5. 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 3 is 15. 5 times 4 is 20. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 6 is 30. 5 times 7 is 35. So some of my multiples are 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, and so on and so forth. So once again, these multiples will go on forever and ever because multiples can always make more. And once again, let's look at our factors. And 5 is also a prime number. So starting with 1, I would try 1 times 5. 2, 3, and 4 will all not evenly fit inside of 5. So that's my turnaround point. So the factors of 5 are 1 and 5. And I know that my multiples of 5 will just go on forever and ever. So let's try one more example of multiples. And I'm going to erase to give myself a little room for another multiplication chart. And I will just do 7 again. So starting with 30 times 1 is 30. 30 times 2 is 60. 30 times 3 is 90. 30 times 4 is 120. 30 times 5 is 150. 30 times 6 is 180. 30 times 7 would be 210. And, of course, I could keep multiplying and multiplying by larger and larger numbers. And let's do our factors of 30. So what numbers fit inside of 30? I can start with 1 times 30. It's an even number, so I can do 2 times 15. 3 times 10. 5 times 6. And that is my turnaround point. So the factors that fit inside of 30 are 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 10, 15, and 30. And as always, the number should be a factor and a multiple of itself. Now let's try a larger number. So let's find the factors of 200. And I know that factors fit inside. And I'm going to list my math facts for 200. Starting with 1 times 200 equals 200. It's even, so 2 times 100 equals 200. 3 will not work. 4 times 50 will equal 200. 5 times 40 will equal 200. Since 3 did not work, I know that 6 will also not work. 7 cannot evenly divide 200, but 8 can. So 8 quarters, 8 times 25, will equal 200. 9 will not divide it, but 10 times 20 will. And once again, I have reached my turnaround point. So the factors of 200 are 1, 2, 4, 5, 8, 10, 20, 25, 40, 50, 100, and 200. And since factors fit inside, I know that 200 is the largest number that will fit inside of itself. Now let's find the multiples of 200. And my phrase is multiples make more. So when I start to find multiples, I know that I'm going to use multiplication, and my answer for multiples will always be equal to 200 or more than 200. So I am going to make my multiplication chart for 200, and we're going to find a lot of multiples. Alright, let's start multiplying. 200 times 1 is 200. 2 times 2 is 4, so 200 times 2 is 400. 2 times 3, 600. 200 times 4 is 800. Since 2 times 5 is 10, this will equal 1,000. 200 times 6 is 1,200. 200 times 7 is 1,400. 8 is going to be 1,600. 200 times 9 is 1,800. 200 times 10 is going to be 2,000. using my power of 10 there. And 200 times 11 would be 2200. So I could list out my multiples, and I could have kept going and going forever, but I'm going to stop at the first 11 multiples. And remember that the first multiple of a number, 200, for example, is always going to be itself. Practice by finding the factors and the first 5 multiples of these numbers, 13, 28, and 40. When you are setting up your scratch paper, please use the strategies you were shown in the video by setting up multiplication charts and listing your math facts and under your factors in order to find all of the answers.